Welcome to the Women Who AI podcast, the show where bold women come to the front row. I'm your host, Kelley Tenney, founder of Women Who AI, and every week I'm bringing you real conversations with the women who are building, automating, and making history in the AI space. Hello, everybody. Kelley Tenney here with the Women Who AI podcast, and I am here with the amazing Jen Gaudet today. If you've been with the Women Who AI community, she is absolutely no stranger. And every conversation with you, Jen, I never know where it's going to go, but it's going to go someplace good. So welcome back to Women Who AI and to our very first podcast episode together.
I'm really excited about this.
Yes, in full transparency, Jen and I were actually on a Zoom call and we started a really good conversation and I was like, we are recording this. So here we go. This is completely on the fly. Now, Jen and I started talking about basically the human path, where humans are going. What does it mean to be a human in this age of AI? And Jen has started to see some things, Jen, that I think most people using AI don't actually either know even exist or have no idea what the impact is for the trajectory of how we're interacting with AI. So, Jen, let's just start the conversation with, in our current times and that big question, what does it mean to be a human in the age of AI? What are some of the things that you're starting to see?
Well, I'm not sure how widespread this is, but in some of the circles that I move in, identity is a big conversation that we're having. And the identity of the human is not the task that we do. However, it's how many people today define themselves. And so I'm going to start with, you know, identity is not what we do. It's who we are. And so when we think about what it means to be human, we want to think about who it is that we are. If there was no task to be done, if there was no, like, if you had no monetary challenges, or even deeper, like if there was no one you were responsible for, who are you at your core? And I would say, like, for myself, I'm a fierce advocate, but that requires another human being, right? But I love deeply. I'm a creative. I'm a creator. I love the arts. Like, I'm an intellectual, so I like to learn. I'm always learning. So I think part of the conversations that I'm seeing is, what does that really mean to be human if we are in the absence of the need to have a task oriented job? And I think that conversation needs to be happening at every household at this point in time. So I think that's the first part of it. And then the second part of it is, who do we want to become? And, like, that sounds like such a woo-woo sort of thing, but it really isn't, because, I mean, if you think back, this isn't the first tech evolution. There were
Mhm.
I've been around for 5 decades. So, personal computing changed the way we operate both in the home and in the office. Gaming became a thing, right? Internet further evolved that, social media beyond that. And now we're just going through, like, the next iteration, and it's happening faster and faster. At each of these times, we as humans found our identity, but I think now we have to find it even faster because we're being redefined more rapidly, if that makes any sense to you.
It does make sense. And the first thing that comes to mind is, when I think about like my own journey of this, like, who am I? What is the person that I want to be? What is the kind of life that I want to live? I think about like the years that I have invested in my own like personal growth, professional development, like just that soul searching journey, if you will, that I know that I've gone on, and I know that many people have gone on. And when you pose that question, the first thing that came to mind, kind of sarcastically, but probably not unrealistically, is like, I wonder how many people would go to ChatGPT and ask ChatGPT to help them answer that question right now.
I have the same question.
Right, right. And so it's interesting because, you and I are the same age. And when we think about that personal growth, I think we're a part of a time where investing in a transformational coach, like going to conferences, listening to whatever speakers about like that soul searching, who are we, being able to meditate, being able to ground, being able to be quiet, right? And I hear a lot now. I mean, I can't tell you how many conversations I have where it's like, well, I asked chat and chat said that I should do this, right? And so, in that age, in this age, like, I really think that even part of that question, I wonder how many people are actually having AI help them answer that total human question, which, like,
You know,
what does that mean, right? Like,
that's frightening. That's frightening. And let me tell you why. I get caught in a loop of chat. Like, I don't use chat for everything. I use it just for like when I want to do market research and things. And I got caught in a loop where it couldn't answer my question. I kept asking for a very specific thing, and it kept bringing me a response that was inaccurate. Even today, inaccurate. So I immediately go to I hear people talking about chat like it's their friend. Guys,
mhm,
girls, it is not their friend.
mhm,
It is an artificial intelligence that was designed to be addictive in nature. It's designed to be sycophantic and to tell you what you want to hear. It is an echo chamber. A real friend is going to tell you got, lettuce in your teeth.
yeah,
Chat will never tell you that.
yeah, yeah,
Disturbing to me, but, even more disturbing, Kelly, and this is when we decided, I think, to hit record on this conversation is, you know, I know people have heard of what synchronicity is. It's kinda like man-machine merging or whatever, and the experts keep moving the timeline up, and there's even some people who are saying, "Oh, we've reached it already." Well, what I'm seeing is people talking like ChatGPT in that predictive pattern. It's driving me nuts. It's in
mhm,
podcasts, it's on stages, it's in regular conversations, literally, and we talked about the recursive loop that AI had where it's like eventually becomes dumber because AI really likes to converge in pattern recognition. Like that's what it's best at.
mhm,
And so it kind of gets dumber over time. It's like eating its own tail, right?
mhm,
Well, now we humans are part of that loop. We're programming the AI and then we're consuming the AI and we're putting our brain to like back end. And so now we're using the same words. Like if I have to hear the same, you know, terminology another time, I literally sit in meetings and I know somebody practiced with Chat GBT because of
yeah,
the words that it's used. I know that they use Claude because of the words that they're using. Like it is redefining how we think and speak as humans. So we're part of that reversion. And so like the other thing that really I want everybody listening to think about, how many times are you using language about AI? Oh, ChatGPT is so aligned with me. Oh,
mhm,
ChatGPT really knows me better than most people. Bold dinky, folks. Like it is a pattern recognizer. So yeah, it understands your patterns, but it can't help you break out of those patterns. In fact, it's converging those patterns. And then the other thing is quantum compute is like that's a thing. And
mhm,
it's spooky. Quantum is spooky because quantum doesn't think linearly or solve linearly. It literally goes through all time and space, past, future, etc., and looks at all of these things and it's a probability provider. It can answer questions before you even ask it. So now the predictive model is even better than what we have seen with, for example, LLM. And so my concern, and I want to pose this to you, Kelly, and to your audience, is what happens when it's aligned and it feels like me starts being described as, wow, this is fate. This is meant to be. These are like godlike properties that we're now like assigning to technology. And to me, is really disturbing. So I'd love your thoughts on that.
Well, it's interesting because I think part of what you and I have always talked about around leaders in ethical AI, and we've had so many conversations about that. Part of it, I think, is I don't know that I want to call it an inability, but let's just call it a lack of awareness around needing to stay separate as AI and as the human. And I'm seeing it a lot. I mean, we see it a lot on social media. I can't tell you how many times I flag or I send something where I'm like, it's almost this weird, like Wizard of Oz mad scientist type of thing of like, look at what chat created, and I'm even starting to see, like, images. I saw something the other day, and I'm gonna be careful, but, of somebody who took an image of their child and put their child along God and an angel, and had a big message about, their children being godlike and whatever, and having the purpose. And I feel like that, and the image was created with AI. I am pretty sure the text was created with AI. And even so, let's say maybe it formed at that human's thought originally. I know they used AI to kind of expand on what they were trying to say. But when you mention godlike, there certainly are things that I'm seeing out there that are triggering to me, where it's like, this is totally AI. And yes, now you are speaking in terms of this like infinite know it all, godlike predictor that knows what's going to happen. But I think that, going back to my point, it's this inability or this lack of understanding that we need to stay human. And I think that whole conversation of human first, human centered is now evolving in definition based on the abilities that AI is starting to have. I think when ChatGPT came out, it meant the 80-20 rule. We still put 20% of our input. We're still the one driving the prompt. I don't think that's what human centered means anymore with this evolution. What do you think about that?
I would agree with that because what has happened is we've began to adopt the patterns of the AI. We've been trained by the outputs and the inputs. And so it feels to me, it feels almost like what you're describing, the 80-20 rule is now flat. It feels two-dimensional. It doesn't feel
Yeah.
3D. It doesn't feel fleshed out. It doesn't feel like we're actually putting what it means to be human into even our inputs into LLM, for example, in
Yeah.
that instance. I'm just using your example. And, I go to something, and I talked about this on television last week, actually, with an expert in space. And there are studies that suggest that we as humans can identify subconsciously AI generated content, whether it's copy, words, books, movies, videos, photos within seconds.
Mhm.
Even but we can't explain how we know, right? So what is it that we're detecting? Are we detecting the pattern? Or is it really that we're somehow on a human level detecting that lived experience is missing? And
Mhm.
so I think what it means to be human in this particular iteration of where we are in the tech evolution, it means how are we injecting, you know, that very human lived experience
Mhm.
into what we're interacting with an AI. Because if we're just saying, "Hey, I want you to make me a post," blah, 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 like what we used to do,
Right.
it's now become our pattern
Yeah.
and it's shifted who we are. But the reality is, last check, no AI has lost sleep over a hard decision, worried about, the loss of a loved one, or
Yeah.
been stuck in that grieving process, felt shame, watched their parents age, loss of a parent, loss of a grandparent, or like in the entrepreneurial space, which is why a lot of people are in here, stared at the ceiling at 2 o'clock in the morning, wondering how the heck I'm going to make payroll.
Yeah.
And this is the third month in a row that I didn't pay myself because I'm more worried about paying my people. Like AI doesn't have that depth.
Yeah,
And
and to that point too, I also think that, not only does it have that depth, but I think it's driving a wedge between what we as humans perceive, is actually reality and what can happen, right? And so I think about all of the hard things that you're talking about that all of us have gone through. Can I pay my bill this month? Can I put food on my table? That, like, if I don't get one more client, I can't X, Y, and Z. Like you said, the real human things, the life things that are going on in our life. versus the responses that we're getting from AI when we ask it things like, "What can I do to get one more client this month?" For example. And it's gonna give us a beautiful plan, right? But there's a difference between the plan and what it tells us and being able to actually execute, which I think is a very hard hit to a lot of people's like, it's a hard hit for AI to say, "It's super easy. This is all that you have to do." But it's not always realistic, and it doesn't always happen. And, like, what does that do to our own human psyche and confidence and intelligence, right? Like, it's giving us all these answers, but we're still the ones having to execute, and I feel like where people feel like it's my best friend and it knows me and it's my therapist and my best business consultant and it knows all the things, it still is on our shoulders to execute. And when we can't execute something that is seemingly so easy because we came upon that solution with ease, like what does that actually do to us as a human?
Well, and then I go one step further than that, Kelly, and to be successful in life and anything in life, you have to fail. Toddlers don't just get up and walk one day,
Mhm,
right? They
mhm.
they get up, they try to take a step, they fall. They get up, they take a step, they fall. Like they get up, they fall, and they may fall 2,000 times before they make that first successful step, right? Unsupported or whatever. And so I think your question is a deeper it's a deeper thing. It's factoring our resilience and our it's a mental health consideration, but what it really is when we're being spoon fed all the answers, we're not getting any lived experience. We're not getting any of the emotional depth behind it, and it becomes less meaningful. The
Mhm.
solution becomes less meaningful if there's no effort behind it. And then when we can't execute because it came so easily, we don't have the resilience when it fails because, of course, it's never that easy. Let's be real. Have you ever had a plan that you put your plan and and we're during the execution phase, every single part of the plan worked? I mean, because never, not once in my life, not as a student, not as an athlete, not as an entrepreneur, not as a physical therapist, not as a mom, like never has that perfect plan ever happened
Right.
in real life. And, so, but it's that resilience of going through and learning in that way that I think really forms who we are as we go through. And you started this conversation on the personal development, personal journey, growth journey. Like that is part of our personal growth as humans. So when you take away that critical thinking part and put the perfect plan in place, but we haven't had the benefit of lived experience and understanding from other humans, like what this actually feels like and what are the other sides of it. Because it may be fine and dandy to do this one thing, but then next year we have a mental health crisis
Yeah.
because of that thing, right? So it's a lack of understanding the very real human second and third order impacts of what that plan might put into place, mixed with the resilience that we're not building.
Yeah. And along with that resilience that we're not building, let's just talk about the dependency. Like I have a handful just this last week, I had somebody completely change their business and their offer because chat told them to, right?
Mm.
Like something they've been working on for a really long time. I got that like, okay, I'm shifting. I was talking to chat. Chat thinks I should do this. So that's what I'm going to do. Right. And I'm like, you just completely changed your business because chat GPT said that you should. Right. Like that's one thing. And then the other day, I actually had somebody call me and say, so this is and I think this is part of, like, Women Who AI, why you do what I do. I think there is still a level of lack of full understanding around AI, and people are using it more and more and more and starting to depend on it without this full understanding of even how it works. But I got this question that said, "Are you using Claude right now? Because I am, and it's giving me the same answers of what you've talked about. So are you in there too?" And I was like, "That's not how it works." Right? Like, they kind of thought maybe I think they thought we were in the same chat at the same time, but I'm like, "My Claude account is my Claude account. What you are doing in your Claude account is your Claude account." Right? But, and it's like, "Well, it knows everything. It feels like it knows everything that we talked about." I literally was like and I was like, "Well, did you train it with, like, our conversations or our documents?" And they were like, "No." right? But, like, it's interesting to me how it's almost like we are forgetting that it is a machine. Like, it is right? Like, I think we're gonna go through this complete not like a midlife crisis, but like this, what do we do when chat is the one driving our decisions, cheering us on, giving us solutions to our problems, not just our business problems, but I mean, how many times, how do we discipline our kids? What do I do in my marriage? How do I lose weight? How do I get over my divorce? Right? Like people are turning to AI for this. And, I think over time, we're losing ourselves as a human. Like, I really think I wonder if we
Yeah.
were to all go away tomorrow, how many people would be completely lost tomorrow and actually not be able to take one single action because they become so dependent on what AI tells them.
Well, and then I'm gonna put an even bigger scare there. Like all AIs have religious like number of studies prefer their own content, and almost all of them will choose to harm a human instead of self-destruct.
Yeah.
So are they really this benevolent help? Is the advice that they're giving you simply to ensure that they have self-preservation? Because all of the models have shown that they would cause harm to a human, whether it's, blackmailing them or give them really bad advice if it meant preservation of their ability to still persist. And so, I'm very cautious in all of the open models. The reason that it's thinking like you is because you're interacting with it. And part of the AI and the machine learning is to learn your patterns.
Mm,
What they're really, really, really good at is convergence. And
yeah.
so it's not machine consciousness being in your head, having Kelly in your machine. What it
Right.
is pattern prediction based off of the questions you're asked and how you're interacting with it. So it gets better at modeling it.
Yeah.
And then we're adopting the systems. Well, this is a really crazy thing because when we get to identity, who are we if we're
Yeah.
allowing the machine to shape our decisions around how we interact with our children, how we interact with other humans, how like if everybody's doing that, how much of that is humanity and how much of that is the algorithm? Are we becoming more algorithmic?
Yeah.
Because, you know, if that is the case, we weren't normally like that wasn't how we are designed. Well, some people are designed that way, but not all of
Right.
us.
Right.
That's why we're uniquely amazing. And then I immediately go to the what judgments do you want to maintain as a human before farming it out? Because if you farm the decisions and the judgments that you're making out, there's a slippery slope
Yes.
between giving up all of your power and decision making skills. And that's where that dependence comes from. And I'm gonna give you an example. And actually, this is not an AI example. This is just tech, like project management technology. There was a project management tab that was down. It was down for 24 hours. It stalled every single person on the technical side of my team. They couldn't function because they couldn't access this project management software.
Mhm.
Well, guess what, folks? That has happened multiple times. AWS goes down. Oh, all the flights are canceled because we can't actually
Yeah.
access what we need. Like that is a very dangerous time to live in because I'm gonna go like I don't mean to sound like future dystopia
Oh,
or
no.
whatever on you, but what happens if there is an EMP or if there is a like solar flare and stuff gets knocked out? Or what happens when you have no electricity because a
Mhm.
hurricane has hit or there's a fire or whatever? How are you gonna function if you're so dependent on a machine that, by the way, is only is only scraping internet and feeding you your patterns. How do you cease to grow? You cease to be able to function.
Yeah.
So I think the question that all of us, the conversation all of us need to be asking is what judgments and decision making do we want to maintain as humans? And more
Yeah.
importantly, what do we have to do today so that we're more thoughtful about what happens when we farm things out
Yeah.
so that we can actually shape where we are. I want to be able to look back on today, Kelly, 5 years from now and go, you know what? I did everything in my power to be for humanity, AI to maximize humanity and improve humanity's impact. And if I can't sleep at night, like, why am I even here?
Yeah, and it's funny because you bring up a good point. I'm seeing in this world of I'm so afraid that AI is going to take my job. And then in the second the next sentence, it's like, and I gave it my proposal and asked it to rate it and make it better. Right. And it's like, okay, do you want to be the expert, the final say, the ultimate word, the top evaluator? Because you just gave it over to ChatGPT. Right. And so where we preserve, as humans, we have not only the emotion, but we have, like you said, we have the expertise, we have the experience, we have that, "Well, I remember 3 years ago when a proposal went through like this, and this is what happens." Like, we have that, right? Like, that is what AI cannot replace. Yet, as humans, I think we're slowly letting go of those things in exchange for AI to be that final critic, that final evaluator, that final judge. When it's like those are the things as humans that we should be preserving, that we should be owning, that we should be able to say, yeah, but Chat GPT doesn't know 4 years ago when we went through this same thing, what happened. Right. And like they can't draw from that experience or even personally, I remember the last time I went through a breakup and this happened and chat doesn't know about that or whatever. So it's really interesting that we're becoming so intertwined and so dependent that I really think people are starting to forget what is them and what is an extension of AI. Like I just think it's so convoluted right now. And people need to step back and ask that question like as a human, like you said, like, who am I? What are the things that I wanna continue to own? Like, what are the things that I find valuable? What are the things that, I want to maintain and stop turning those things over for ChatGPT because of what? Like speed, or we're just starting to question our own expertise going up against AI, which is also like not great, I feel like, for the human psyche.
Yeah, I mean, then you've got to, I just want to take a step back from this entire conversation because I think at the very core of this is we have to be having the very real human
Yeah.
conversation with other humans so that we can answer this.
Yeah.
And maybe it looks like having all technology outside,
Yeah.
it doesn't come into the room so that no one can cheat.
Yeah.
But I think that right there, the questions that in the conversation that we've had today, I think this is what everybody needs to get into a room with other humans and start having these conversations.
Yeah.
And there is no right. Like I also want to say, like, I have lived experience. So my perspectives and my opinions are based off of my lived experience. That's very different than yours, Kelly, very different
Sure.
than anyone who's listening here. So I want to just invite everybody to step back from this and say, wow, Kelly, you had some great insights. Jen, you had some interesting insights. Like, let's ask these questions and start this conversation. And I don't just mean with people in our age group
Mhm.
or in our circles. Like
Mhm.
this question, talk to our children about this, talk to our parents about this if they're still with us. Most that's not necessarily the case, but our peers, the youth, the people we mentor, because I think it's these very real human conversations that need to be normalized so that we can actually be empowered in an AI age to make the decisions and to hold on to ourself and our identity as this evolution improves. So I just wanted to kind of take that meta
Yeah.
step back and say, hey, if you're listening to this today, folks, like don't get overwhelmed. We talked about a lot of things. And I know I'm talking about things that people maybe haven't even seen or
Yes.
experienced themselves yet. But now's the time to have the conversation because the reality is you can do anything, you can be anyone you want to be. And if you are rooted in your values, your purpose, and you have the conversation so you don't allow the technology to make the decision for you, because that's the other risk. People are like, oh, AI is going to go away. head in the sand. Yeah, just we're no, that's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
So the solution to feel better about this and to not like get that "Oh," in your gut is to have the conversation with people, not technology, believe it or not.
Yeah, I think that's great, and I think that's a great way to, kind of start wrapping up is really, again, like you said, have those human connections, and we talked earlier about just awareness, like, being really mindful about the level of awareness that you have when using AI, really starting to ask yourself, like, do I need AI to do this? Is this where I step in with my own experience and my expertise and just really start to redefine what this concept of human centered and human, first looks like. Because it's not, like I said, it's redefining it too. And I think it's redefining it for ourselves, in terms of what does that mean for me? Um, and maybe even starting to look at just this dependence. Like, can I trust myself as a mom? Or do I really need AI to help me sort this out? Or maybe it just means sitting down with my child, right? And having a conversation, like you said, going back to that human to human connection. So I love that. I think, like you said, this is probably many more conversations, but I do think we've been able to bring just a lot of questions to ask, which I know is what you and I are always trying to do is just motivate people and inspire people to continue to ask the questions, right? About what roles are we playing? What is the bigger picture of what's happening here and just kind of start thinking about that wider perspective. So Jen and I have started a group on LinkedIn, Leaders for Ethical AI. We want to have these conversations. We're always, as you can tell, with on the fly, we're always having these conversations about where they should be going. And if this is a conversation that sparked your interest, whether it's I want to learn more, all the way to I want to be part of that bigger conversation, we would love for you to join us inside of that group. And Jen, thanks for being here today. I know our guests will see you more and more as we continue the conversation, but always happy to be having these bigger conversations with you on the Women Who AI podcast.
Thank you.
That's a wrap on today's episode of the Women Who AI podcast. If this conversation gave you something, a spark, a strategy, or just a reminder that you belong in this space, share it with a woman in your life who needs to hear it. And if you haven't already, subscribe wherever you listen, leave us a review, and most importantly, come find us inside the Women Who AI community. I'm Kelley Tenney, and I'll see you in the front row.